Right, Shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rachak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, whoever you may be, Shalom, Yasharallah, Shalom. All right, we're going to pick back up in Acts chapter 16. It's the second half, so we can finish this chapter off. I don't know if we need to do a run back. Yeah, I guess it'll be good. So what we have here is Paul and Silas, who there was this woman when they came into, what city was it? Not sure if I can find that city again. Let me see here. Okay, yeah. No, actually, that was Thyatira. Let me see here. I believe it was a different city that they moved into. Probably just can't find it right now. But anyways, the point being that so you had Paul and Silas who went to this particular city. If I'm correct, that was Thyatira. That was a different one. But you can just make sure you read through yourself, or go back to the first half of this chapter here that we already posted up. And so Paul and Silas, while they were there, they met this woman, as we just saw up there at the top, who was a seller of purple and so on and so forth. She kind of chopped it up with Paul and Silas, and had them I think it was she had her baptized in her household and so on and so forth. The point I'm trying to make is, so they tarried there a little while, at her home, as a place to, lay their head for rest, and they would go outside of the city, all right, to meet at a place where, the people of that particular city or that area will go, that was outside the city, to meet up, to pray and, pretty much congregate and so on and so forth. And so going into as we move down into this portion here, because these are the main verses here at the bottom. All right. So they pretty much met this woman who was pretty much, you might as well say, possessed with a demon, and she had some masters. I guess she was a slave girl. All right. And so through her soothsaying and her divination, things of that nature, she brought her masters a lot of money. Okay. And she would pester Paul and Silas, like pretty much follow them around the city as they were going. Maybe they were going to areas where they were going to teach, or maybe they were just going about their day. All right. Whatever they were doing. Okay. And she would always be following them every single day when she would see them. These are the men who come and give truth and so on and so forth and blah. So she was really pestering them. So Paul got pissed off one day, and he turned around and commanded the demon to come out of her. All right. And the demon left. And so that caused that money that her masters were getting from her divination, her soothsaying, and, basically using that magic on that left-hand side, it caused the money to stop. And so those men, which it doesn't really specify how many, I think it does say masters plural, but as well as how many men, it says masters plural. So who knows how many men it was, but the point being that it stopped their money flow. So they were angry at Paul and Silas. So they sought to put them in jail and, get them locked away. And as a matter of fact, we can read that. So as a matter of fact, let's get 18. It says in this Acts 16:18 is from the last session here. We're going to move into the next portion down there, which is Paul and Silas in prison. So it says, and this did she many days, all right, pestering Paul and Silas, Paul following them every day. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Hamashiach Hawashah to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. All right. But we know this is a low level demon because it says he came out. All right. She wasn't possessed by multiple demons, just one demon. All right. But it was what she was dealing with. But anyways, it says, and when her masters, see, plural, masters, saw that the hope of their gains, all right, getting their money. Let's pull up gains real quick. See what it says there. For gains, ergasia, working, performing, work, business, gain. There you go. Gain got by work or profits. You see, and that's what was happening. All right, their business was now, pretty much shot. Okay, because the demon was pulled out of this woman. They're the slave. All right, or however it worked there. So it says, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace, into the rulers. So they came, pretty much, not necessarily rough them up, but they snatched them up, all right, to take them to, some authority figures. It says, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. All right. And it says, them being Jews. Well, they're all Israelites. All right. But you have to understand, once again, that history, that's how the history keeps popping up over and over and over and over and over. You got to know that portion of history in the Maccabees. Okay. In particular, I'm referring to First Maccabees chapter 1. Okay. That is a major chapter dealing with all the history in the New Testament, okay? Because it goes and talking about the Hellenization and so on and so forth. All right, so they were all Israelites, but you had the circumcision and the uncircumcision. Of course, the circumcision being the Jews of Judea, who grew up knowing the laws and customs and things of that nature. And the uncircumcision, the Gentiles, all right, Israelites, not Gentile heathens, but Gentile Israelites, those that grew up doing everything other than what the customs are, because they didn't have that. They didn't grow up with that. They weren't grow up being taught that. They didn't know about these things. Okay, there might have been a few who knew about it, but the majority of them, they knew nothing about the customs. They knew nothing about not having a bald head or long hair, or eating pork and doing whatever, right? Worshiping false gods and idols, the pantheon of gods and all these things. They were doing these things because they didn't have the right way. All right. So it says, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. Now, this goes back also, of course, one for one, the main thing teaching about Yahweh Shah, resurrection and all those things, your salvation coming through Yahweh Shah. But also, we can go back to chapter, is it 15? I can't remember. I think it was the last chapter, Acts chapter 15, where that decree went out from the apostles. Like, this is what the Gentiles are to do. When you go and teach these Gentiles, all right, this is the base regiment they need to follow as they come into the ministry. All right, those that would have you. All right, so this is what they need to follow, and not the things that those random men told them to do, which was basically pushing all the law on them. All right, you got a person who was deep into, not saying this in the scriptures, I'm just making an example, deep into Jesus Christ, and all of a sudden you slap the laws and this and that, the third thing on them, and you're gonna confuse a person real quick. All right, so the apostles, by way of the Holy Spirit, understood how to pretty much ease them into the truth, the right way, without giving them too much flack, putting pressure on them that even we, all right, even as the Jews of Judea, of the circumcision, we can't even keep all these things. All right, we do the best of our ability, and so on and so forth. So yeah, even going back to those things that were mentioned, Acts chapter 15 as a decree from the apostles themselves. So it says, moving on now, it says Paul and Silas in prison. All right, so that's why we did that summary there of the last chapter, because it moves us, which, it's the same chapter, but to the second half. So it says, and the multitude rose up together against them. All right, the multitude, meaning not just these men. So these men actually stirred up, I'm not going to say the whole city, but they definitely stirred up, others. All right. And the multitude rose up together against them, because if you go into multitude, it's clearly not just a few people. All right. Yeah, you see a crowd, a casual collection of people, a multitude of men who have flocked together in some place. All right. So yeah, they stirred up a very good bunch in the city. All right. Not just those men who were masters of the woman, but also a great bunch behind them, because you have, once again, whether it be circumcision or uncircumcision, you always had faithful believers in both parties, but then you also had non-believers in both parties. All right. So it says, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison. And this goes to show you that they really they heard the case, and straightway favored these Gentile Israelites. I just straightway favored them, all right, over Paul and Silas. Okay, so it says, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. All right. And if I'm correct, according to the law, you weren't supposed to give your brother more than, I think it's 40 stripes, 39 or 40 stripes. All right. Because anything over that is excessive. And, it's just, making that person now shameful. All right. But fact check me on that. So it says, verse 24 says, who, having received. Now I'm not saying they followed that. It's not telling how many stripes they gave him. I was just making a point there according to the law. But it says, who having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. All right, so they shackled them up. I guess we could pull up stocks because this bottom has is actually pretty short there. This chapter. Wood, that which is made of wood, as a beam from which anyone is suspended, a gibbet, a cross. Yeah, when you hear that word gibbet, it usually goes into talking about some of the facets in the cross. Okay, you can look that up for yourself though. Here it is, a log or timber with holes in which the feet, hands, neck of prisoners were inserted and fastened with thongs. And this is something you would definitely see a lot in the medieval time period, where you see the person with their neck stuck through and then their wrist stuck through. And so they're kind of like in this bent over position between two stalks of wood, and there will be a lock that will put on it so they can, get free. They couldn't squeeze out of it, all right, and they couldn't break free of it, right? A fetter or shackle for the feet, a cudgel, stick, staff, basically, the same thing today. You get a billy club or a nightstick, all right, which I don't think the cops have them. Not anymore. They got those. I forgot what they call them because my dad has one, but it's like a metal bead, or I don't really know how to, it's like circular, but I forget what they call, but when you do a whipping motion, it comes out, all right, it like extends, okay, to a small metal, and the thing hurts. I'm talking about super hurts, okay. But it's the same thing, all right. And then you can push it back down and retract it, so it looks like some short like metal pole or whatever. All right, if I'm correct, the cops do have those. I might be wrong though, because they definitely got those tasers though. So and then it says a tree, because when you sometimes you're reading the scriptures, well, you might come across where it says who was hung from a tree, but it really is referring to the cross, but the cross is made of wood, and wood comes from trees. All right, so people sometimes get confused on that. So it says, and made their feet fast in the stocks. It says, and at midnight Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto the Most High, and the prisoners heard them. All right, so everybody in the prison was hearing these guys. Okay, it says, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loose. So Paul and Silas praying, all right, in the middle of the night, and an earthquake happened, and everybody, not just Paul and Silas, everybody's shackles fell off. Imagine that happening in today's time, all right? Imagine that happening, man. And you should be able to imagine that, because there are going to be things like that are going to happen to some of us, right? Those types of things are going to happen in Jacob's trouble, where you may be shackled up, or even if you're not shackled, you may be, locked away, and then something happens where, you've been released by some, thing that happened, or some angel came and released you, or whatever the case may be. These things, you cannot think these things to be far-fetched, man. All right, because you're cutting your faith, your belief in what the Lord is capable of, very, very short. All right, because there's nothing too hard for the Lord, and there's nothing impossible with the Lord. Okay, and so we're going to experience things that we thought could never happen. Not that we doubted these things, but just, like the unimaginable is going to be happening to the faithful believers during Jacob's trouble, because Lord, when we are that number, we have to be delivered from the troubles. All right. Now, those of us meant to be martyrs are going to be martyrs, but those of us that are going to make it all the way through to the end, to the chariots come to pick us up, Lord, will we are that number, right? We're going to have to be delivered from these situations. So you're going to see the unimaginable happen, and multiple times, not just once or twice, multiple times, man, because we don't know how long Jacob's trouble is going to be. So it says, and suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open. All right. It says, and everyone's bands were loose. So everybody's shackles fell off, and all the doors flew open, man. Imagine all the jail cells flying open right now today. And everywhere, which in modern day times, all right, the only time you're shackled is when you're, pretty much put into the car and brought in. Then you put in your holdings and whatever. And if you're not bailed out, they'll take you, back, and then eventually, if you're there long enough, over a week, you'll be sent to population. But my point is, nobody's just sitting around in handcuffs all day anymore, or shackled down or whatever. Okay, but just imagine the dorm doors flying open. Okay, you hear the electronic lock open, but you don't see no guard or nothing. Like, what the heck is going on? And then the next door opens, like, whoa, wait a minute. And then, you know what I'm saying? So this is like, just giving you an example of the modern day version of what happened here in the ancient days. All right. Everybody's shackles flew off and all the doors flew open. It says, and the keeper of the prison awaking out of his sleep and seeing the prison doors open. And this is important because and I'm just speaking as a man. To me, this bottom portion, though we're following the account of Paul and Silas, this bottom portion is about this guard here. All right. Because this guard is an Israelite. How do we know? Let's keep reading to find out why. It says, and the keeper of the prison awaking out of his sleep and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had fled. So he felt the shaking. That's what woke him up. Because remember, there was a great earthquake, a great shaking, right? So that's what woke him up. Okay. And then before he even went inside the cells, he just saw the doors open. So, you got to think about it. You're just waking out of your sleep. You're the guard of that night watch. Okay. And the first thing you see is cell doors open. So the first thing you're going to think is immediately, oh my goodness, I fell asleep and the prisoners escaped. Okay. So he was like, no, because he probably already knew that he was going to be put to death. All right. He was probably going to be sent, I don't know, maybe sent to Rome or however the authority, maybe it was just in that city, however the chain of authority was going to work. He just knew that he was in deep, crap. Right. So it says that he drew his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. All right. So it says, but Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, do thyself no harm, for we are all here. So Paul probably saw the man, okay, and he probably looked out of the cell and saw the man about to, self-delete himself, and he stopped him. So it says, then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling. So he probably grabbed a lantern or whatever, you can just imagine ancient times of things that, because there wasn't, he might have grabbed a candle or whatever. All right. Because there definitely wasn't, a light bulb and a switch to flick. Okay. So it says, then he called for a light and sprang in. All right. And came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas. Okay. So he was terrified, man. Like, man, the prison doors are open, the prisoners escape. I may as well just, check out. All right. I might as well just check out. Okay. It says, and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? Okay. Was this a heathen? Nope, absolutely not. Okay. It says, and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? So, because he heard what Paul said, and then we're all here. All right. It's okay. Don't kill yourself. And he brought them out of the cells. Like, what do I have to do to be saved? Because this is crazy. I don't know how this happened. All right. And it says the jailer converted. This is how we know the jailer is an Israelite. Okay. Because no one's coming into the faith. All right. Except for Israelites. Now, you might say, but a heathen could convert to the ways. It doesn't matter because that happened before. But that didn't get them salvation. All right. That didn't save them from anything. All right. To come. You see, that just means they follow our ways. And at the end of the day, they're still going to get the same punishment slated for them. All right. Look how Antiochus try to turn around at the end. I think you read about that. I think it's in both First Maccabees and Second Maccabees. I think in Second Maccabees it's like chapter 9 or 6. I can't remember. Haven't read it in a while. Well, yeah, go find what happened to him. Okay, and then all of a sudden all the hell and demonic activity he placed against us, and all of a sudden at the end when he's about to die, now it's about his life being preserved. So now he wants to acknowledge the Lord and acknowledge the Israelites. Nah, man, you out of there. Okay, and it's no different from today with these heathen nations, man. It doesn't matter if they acknowledge which they're probably never going to do it. But even if they do, it's not going to get them salvation, man. It's not going to save them from the troubles to come. 2/3 are not even going to get saved from the troubles to come. Okay, so what more are the heathens, man? They mean nothing. They're vain. All right, that's what the scriptures say. And it's spittle, which is spit unto the Lord. You see? So it says the jailer converted. It says, and they said, believe on the Lord, Hamashiach Yahushua. This is how you do it. All right, what must I do to be saved? Believe on the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua, and thou shalt be saved in thy house. Yeah, beautiful. Because I was thinking about 1 Corinthians 15, but we can actually grab 3, because that's more so dealing with the resurrection. But if we grab 3, and 8 is it 18? We'll get 17 and 18. As a matter of fact, excuse me, we get 16 as well. because this is important to point out. So it's John 3:16 says, for the Most High so loved the world. The word world there is G2889. If you know that word, it goes back to the word cosmos, which also goes back to the word kamizo. And going into those words, give you an understanding that is only dealing with the Israelites. So when it says world, it's not meaning everybody, but that's what the churches do and people of the world do. Or these people talking about this is why I left the Hebrew Israelites. All right. Because they don't understand their words. It's as simple as researching your words, man. But it shows you that these people, they were never really slated for the truth. Even if they, were gung ho about it in the beginning, they weren't adamant about it, because that means you would take time to actually study and research things, and so you can point these things out to yourself. Because how can every man be persuaded in his own mind unless he comes to his own conclusion? By doing what? Your own studies. All right, hearing what you've been taught and going and search the things out for yourself. That is how you persuade in your own mind. Because you could believe by someone telling you, but that belief ain't really going to be based off faith. All right, your faith is going to come in when you not only hear and believe what you've been told, but when you search it out for yourself and you have the understanding for yourself firsthand. That's where your faith comes in. Now you're working off of faith. Okay. Because anyone can hear something and believe it. Like, hey, man, there's a fight going on around the corner. And you ran, around the corner and there was a fight. Or there could have not been a fight. All right. But you get the point, though. So it says, for the Most High so loved the world, the Israelites, that he gave his only begotten son, Yahushua, that whosoever believeth in him. So it says, whosoever. So we now know by going into our world, who the whosoever is. And we're talking about Israelites. So the Israelites that believe in him should not perish. That's the faithful believers, which are ultimately the remnant, but have everlasting life, because once our bodies are changed, Lord willing, we have the number, we will be immortal. Okay. It says, for the Most High sent not his son into the world, and to the Israelites, as he said himself, I'm not sent but only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I'm only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. All right. For the Most High sent not his son into the world of the Israelites to condemn the world, the Israelites, right? But that the world, the Israelites, because notice these are the same word of world here, through him might be saved, through Yahushua, because he's our mediator, our go-between. He's pretty much outside. Well, the Lord is our salvation, but how is he going to give it? It's through Yahushua. Okay. All right. John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come unto the Father but by me. Okay. It says, he that believeth on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he had not believed. You see? He had not believed, which goes back to what? Your faith. Okay. And the scriptures tell us that faith is the substance of things not seen. You have to have faith. Like there's a van driving by me right now. Okay. That's something you can see with your own eyes. You don't have to know that a van exists, because you can go and find a van. Like, okay, there's a van. Vans exist. They're real. Okay. But you can't do that with Yahushua. You have to believe that he walked the earth as his Lord and Savior, and he's coming back to deliver up the elect without ever having to see him with bodily eyes, man. Okay? That's what true faith is, man. Believing in something that you haven't seen. Though we've heard, but hearing is one thing, seeing is another thing. But this ain't something that we can see, all right? The way the Lord operates is opposite of what the world would operate, all right? So it says, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he had not believed in the name, which is the rank, him being the Lord and Savior, and also comes in the true name, all right? Which is not Jesus. Jesus is Yahushua, but also the rank that he is the Lord and Savior, okay? That everything is done through him, all right? Says, of the only begotten Son of the Most High, all right? So as we go back here, dealing with the jailer, here it is. We can get 30 again. Acts 16:30, and brought them out and said, sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, believe on the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua, and thou shalt be saved in thy house. You see? And the scriptures say that a man shall be I think it's a covert from the trouble, something like that, roughly paraphrasing. All right, because the Lord is first and foremost, he's dealing with the men. Now you might have a few faithful sisters, but they have their walk, all right, to stay in the truth. But as far as what the Lord is doing, he's dealing with men, okay? Because men are the leaders, all right? So it says, and they spake unto him the word of the Lord. So you know this wasn't a heathen, because why would they be teaching a heathen? They can't be saved. So that's a waste of time. All right. They follow false gods and idols anyway, so they're non-believers. So even if they believed in Yahushua, they would just add him to all their list of gods and just lump him together as if he's just some random thing. You see? So we know this not dealing with a heathen, man. It says, and they spake unto him the word of the Lord and to all that were in his house. All right. So it says, and he took them the same hour of the night and washed their stripes. Yeah, because remember, they were whipped, right? Or not, maybe not exactly by the magistrates, but they gave the command to whip them. All right. So it says, and washed their stripes and was baptized, he and all his straightway, meaning everybody in his household. Okay. Says, and when he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them and rejoiced, believing in the Most High with all his house. All right. So he fed them. And when it was day, the magistrates sent the sergeants, saying, let those men go. And when we look into this word sergeants, all right, Rabdokos, one who carries the rods, an example, the fasces, a lictor, a public official who bore the fasces or staff and other insignia of office before a magistrate. Now, if I'm correct, like in medieval times, this would be something similar to like an executioner. Let's pull up the fasces. Yeah, we can get it. All right. So let's pull up the fasces. Bear with us. Move a little slow. All right. So here we have the fasces. Did I pronounce it right? I don't know if the volume's up or not. Fasces. Okay. Yeah. Fasces. Yep. Fasces. Okay. So it says a bundle of rods with a projecting axe blade carried by a lictor in ancient Rome as a symbol of a magistrate's power and used as an emblem of authority in fascist Italy. Okay. So this is a bunch of like rods tied together with the axe head. Let me get this lictor real quick, and then we'll pull up the fasces, what it looks like. So it says a lictor. It says in ancient Rome, an officer attending the consul. In ancient Rome, an officer attending the consul or other magistrate bearing the fasces and executing sentences on offenders. You see, similar to like an executioner, like in medieval time period. So yeah, let's see images. And there it is, all right? You see the fasces, okay? And so this guy would carry this thing around, okay? Look at that one. Here's another one on display. So you can see like a bunch of rods tied together, and they have an axe head, okay? Look at that. Yeah, wow. Is that George Washington? I think it is. It looks like him. It looks like he's standing next to one. Look, check this out. What's on the top of this one? It's not an axe, but now I know this is just something, but it's in the form of a fasces. It's a bunch of rods tied together, you see? Look at these guys. Romans, right? You see, look. You see what they have there? You see? That one has a lion head on the inside of the blade. So it's pretty much straightforward. You can look more. Look, these columns look similar to one. Man, wow, that's crazy, though. So you see this everywhere. And the Lord is putting the scriptures where there's nothing new under the sun. You got one on the coins, you see? Nothing new under the sun, man. Let me pull that one up real quick, if I can. And that's from the wiki. I want to see where it's from. Ancient Rome, something. I can't really see. I don't really want to go in and visit the whole entire site. A denarius. All right, a denarius. Okay. So this was at one point on a coin. My screen's jumping around, but you saw it there. Oh, there it is. All right. So we're straightforward with what the fasces is now, and having an understanding of that. Okay, and the lictor. All right, the lictor was the one that carried that, and he had a certain power. All right. Oh, okay, we went back by mistake, but it's okay. So it says a public official who bore the fasces or staff and other insignia of office before a magistrate. All right. So he's probably the one that carried out the whipping. Okay. because it says the magistrates ripped their clothes and then ordered them to be whipped. So this was probably done by the lictor. Okay, so we have the understanding there. So it says, and when it was day, the magistrates sent the sergeants. You see, saying, "Let those men go." I'm curious of what it says in another version. Maybe it will say something else. What was it? Verse 35. Let me get down there. The next morning, the city officials sent the police to tell the jailer, "Let those men go." So that's the NLT. Let's see what the AMP reads. It says officers in the AMP. I sometimes read the ASV. I haven't done it on screen, but I sometimes read the ASV. Let's see what that says. It says sergeants here as well. But when it was day, the magistrate sent the sergeants saying, "Let those men go." So pretty much straight as we can just jump back over to KJV. So we pretty much still got the understanding there. So we can move on. So going back to, what was it, verse 35? So it says, and when it was day, the magistrate sent the sergeants saying, "Let those men go." And the keeper of the prison told this, saying to Paul, "The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace." Check this out though. It says, but Paul said unto them, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned." Meaning what? There was no reason behind this. All right. They just went along with these wicked men who were mad about their business because they had a possessed woman making, divinations for them to make their business lucrative. They were angry at us. They took us to the magistrates and they got us whipped and jailed for no reason. Uncondemned, you see, punished without being tried. You see? What was the trial? We didn't go through trial. What are you talking about? We're not just going to walk away. You beat us openly, brought shame upon us without ever having a trial. Okay, that's what they did. We'll whip them. All right. Says, but Paul said unto them, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned, being Romans." Now, was Paul an Edomite? Absolutely not, man. Paul had Roman citizenship. He even says that in the Romans, I almost want to say it was chapter 3, but I can't remember. Just fact check me. But in one of those chapters, he speaks about strangers scattered in Rome. Okay, he was talking about Israelites because we had been exiled and scattered abroad, right? The diaspora of the Israelites. So we had Israelites living everywhere, and Rome's not anywhere special. You had Israelites in Rome. Okay, we keep mentioning Cornelius. You had Cornelius, who was hailing from Italy, who was living in Caesarea Philippi. That's where he was stationed at. He was an Israelite who had rank in the Roman army. He was of the Italian band, a centurion of all things, over 100 men. Okay, so you gotta factor these things in as you visualize it. All right. So it says being Romans. All right, which means not only Paul had Roman citizenship, but also Silas. All right, who was with them, being Romans, and have cast us, you see, us into prison. And now do they trust us? I'm sorry, do they thrust us out privily, meaning secretly? Nay, all right, you beat us openly with no trial for no reason, but then you want to cast us away secretly. No, absolutely not. Check out what Paul says. Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out. You see, tell them to come down here themselves. All right, if they want us to roll out. Otherwise, there's problems. I'm not saying Paul was just gonna, go buck wild and crazy or whatever, but Paul's letting them know, like, nah, we ain't going nowhere. You did this wrongfully to us. These men are going to come down here and see to it themselves. All right. Now tell them what I said. Okay. Nay, verily, but let them come themselves and fetch us out. And the sergeants told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared. You see? Because they found out that these two men had Roman citizenship. When they heard that they were Romans. Yeah, because you did this to not saying they're actual Edomites or actual Romans. That's where they grew up. Just like they would call me an American, or you who lives here an American, but we're Israelites. Okay, so we have American citizenship by default because we were born here and we grew up here. Okay, so when you go into the laws of Romans, all right, they were terrified, like, oh man, we did this, we did this shamefully to fellow Roman citizens. You see? And another thing to point out here, it goes to show you that the Lord is not dealing with, any kind of skin color, man. Now, this magistrate could have been, a dark-skinned Israelite, a dark-skinned Israelite, or it could have been possibly an Edomite or whoever. We don't really know. Probably an Israelite, if I say so myself. But once again, we don't know. All right. At the point being, okay, the Lord is not dealing with skin color. And he's not dealing with all the nations. He's dealing with one nationality of people, and that is that of the Israelites. And we have been scattered. Okay? That's why the scriptures talk about picking us up from the four corners of the earth in all nations, like Isaiah 11, Revelation 7, and, a couple other places, man, because we're scattered. He has to gather us from everywhere, right? But back to the point of this of the chapter, because we're at the end anyways. It says, and the sergeants told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans, meaning they had citizenship, but they're Israelites, okay? So it says, and they came and besought them and brought them out and desired them to depart out of the city. All right. So what Paul said happened. No, you want to tell those men to come down here themselves for what they did. All right. It says, and they went out of the prison and entered into the house of Lydia. And when they had seen the brethren, they comforted them and departed. So they saw other faithful believers. All right. Probably gave a few words there or whatever, chopped it up, and, then they were out. Okay. So like I said, that second half was very simple. We didn't finish it the first time because we were reaching an hour on the first half of this chapter. But this second portion was pretty much straightforward. And there's a portion in there where, someone was converted. A jailer, okay, was converted. And we know that he was an Israelite, because otherwise he would have been taught the gospel. He wouldn't even believe in the first place. He would have never asked how he could be saved if he wasn't an Israelite. All right. But anyways, that's the end of Acts chapter 16, part 2. So Lord willing, you edify. Till next time, y'all, I'm going to say shalom.